Good
Hello there.
morning. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hello there. My name is Adrienne Conlington, and I'm a health enthusiast and a health coach. And just all things health is what I'm interested in because I think health is such an important topic, especially in these days and times that we're living in right now.
And hello, I am Lori Van Walters Truell, and let's talk health. I am a functional nutrition counselor, and I'm very excited about getting older and getting healthier and getting happier and sharing that with others. So tonight we have Adrienne Congleton, who's going to present her topic. What is it that we're going to talk about tonight, Adrienne?
My topic is, just to bring us up to speed, it feels like the time that we're living in right now, I'm sure we can all feel it. It just feels different. It feels different than it did like 5 years ago,
Mm.
as far as the media, the things that's happening, the news and stuff like that. So, and it's affecting people's mental health. I got a flyer about a health fair that was happening in the area that I live this weekend, and they had the regular health people, and then they had five different mental health uh trucks out there. So we're living in precarious times, but we got to remain strong. And I think that one of the things that helps us to remain strong is what we take in, the media that we take in, and the food that we take in. And I wanted to talk about diets. Like, what is a healthy diet? What does that actually mean? I mean, we're living in a time where so many things are being done to our food that even if we think that we're eating quote unquote healthy, we really don't even know because we have to trust for-profit corporations to honor what they said is on the label. And oftentimes we find out that the food did not have what they said it had, or it has stuff in it that is not supposed to be in it. So it's really a complicated topic what a healthy diet is. Uh,
Absolutely.
what's your take on our diet, Lori? What you think?
Yeah, just recently I read something about even organic doesn't necessarily mean that it's without pesticides. It may mean that it just has a different type of pesticide. And they have these little gadgets that use like ionization where you can actually clean your fruit and vegetables. It's kind of like a little thing, like a little buzzing thing that you put in the water, and it's supposed to help to grab up all of the toxins. But, again, it's like we're being told so many things. It's like the last few infomercials that I looked at, and they're very engaging. They're like, they'll say something that is like very, it's like, oh, I'd like to know more about that. And here you are on a 30-minute infomercial, and they're selling a product, and it's people that you know like Dr. Oz or Oprah. And then if you take a step back and you Google it and you find out, is this a scam? And they're usually scams.
Right.
So, so much
It's
information is being given, but we can't always trust everything that we hear about. And so, um,
yeah.
to say that you want to be healthy, it really does start with valuing your mental health, knowing how to do boundaries, but also knowing how to find out the correct information because we're being deceived on so many levels. The thing about processed foods, and I may have mentioned this before, is that everything is not listed. You may have a ton of things that are listed, but then there are a lot of things that are not listed that are used in the processing of that food. So, in order for them to make it whatever it is, they don't even list those chemicals. And those are
I
things
know.
that are clearly poisoning our liver, poisoning our brains. On so many level, on a cellular level, we're being attacked by all of
A-
these things.
Absolutely. So when I look at one of the things is I look at a lot of YouTube videos when they talk about taking supplements because they said since the 40s and the 50s, the food does not have the nutrition in it that it used to have 40 years ago because when they're growing the fruits and vegetables, the Native Americans would grow in one area this year, and then next year they would let it regenerate, and then next year they would grow in it. So they give the soil a chance to replenish. These agri farmers don't do that. They just use chemicals, 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 and all of the chemicals are killing the insects, which, a pesticide, it kills cells, which the insects, and then we eat the pesticide. So that's a toxin that's coming inside of us. But it's just, and then the influencers are some of them, because a lot of people are going into alternatives and they're like, I don't want to just take medicine. I want to use herbs and I want to use supplements since they said our food doesn't have what it's supposed to have. And now the pharmaceutical companies are paying influencers to say stuff about the supplements. So
Right,
that way they can make money off the supplements and the medication.
right.
So now they're talking about all these diets. Like the main ones that they talk about is vegetarian, vegan, paleo, keto, and carnivore. So I think the keto is high fat, moderate protein, and low carbs. And the carnivore is high protein, moderate fat, and low carbs. And the vegan is mostly carbs from vegetables, no animal products at all. And
Mhm.
then the vegetarian is vegetables and maybe some dairy products that came from an animal. So it's it's a lot of food noise
Right,
out here about what to eat.
right,
But I'm I'm concerned about the plant-based agenda that's being pushed on us because Oreo cookies, and beer and bread, that's plant-based.
right,
Okay, so a lot of carbohydrates, which people to say as long as it doesn't come from an animal, is good for me, but that's not necessarily true because if I eat a lot of pasta and pancakes and bread, it's vegan, but it's so much sugar in it that it's going to make me sick. And
right.
they're saying that our body can only handle a teaspoon of sugar. And
In a
we're
day, it
at
can't.
any one time, at any one time, it can only handle a teaspoon. And we're drinking, a soda might have 14 teaspoons or some crazy amount. And then the
Mhm.
bread is sugar and the pasta is sugar. So we're being poisoned by eating too much carbohydrate. So, diabetes is really carbohydrate intolerance.
Right,
So if we're not looking at all of the sugar that we're taking in, so now you have other people that's going to the other extreme and they're saying, I'm just going to eat dairy products and meat because there's no sugar in it. And that's what Dr.
right,
Atkins talked about. That was the Atkins diet. So, and then both sides have their testimonials. They both say, I was on a vegan diet and it healed me completely. And then the carnivores say, I was on a no plants and it healed me. So there's so much food noise. How does a person figure out what to do?
Right, right. Um, what about the things that look like meat, but they really are not, and they're being sold as meat, not as like non-animal meat, but they're like these cultured proteins that they are creating. And then, it's like our body really doesn't understand that. It looks at it like, and I'm hearing a lot about the receptors, like the receptors for our hormones, the receptors for sugar, um, and these things get really damaged because of the things that we're eating, because our cells don't recognize this stuff and it wants to get rid of it. But a lot of these things are forever chemicals. They are things that stay in our body forever, like plastics, like those
Right,
tiny little particles of plastic. It takes a real long time to get rid of them. And so there's a lot of talk about detoxification. It's like, how do you do it? And what levels? I mean, you can cleanse the colon, but that's just one thing. Like, how do you go in and get rid of all these heavy metals and plastics and stuff like that? So there's just so much information um, that we're being bombarded with, and until we really, and I think next week I would like to really do a deep dive into looking at our bodies as individuals, looking at ourselves, looking at our blood, looking at our, um, I don't know that the urine probably does tell us a lot, but looking at our bodily fluids to see exactly what's going on. Are we usually what happens is when those receptors are not working, then we're not getting the vitamins and minerals that we're supposed to be getting. And so that's where we end up with deficiencies. So not only is it not functioning, it's not the organs are not functioning properly in order to do what they were intended to do, but we're also like walking around without the things that we need. And so I would like to, I know I said it before, but to really look into this testing. Like there's one that you can get your DNA tested to see how you process foods, like different types of foods. Some people, they can eat a lot of carbs and their body will metabolize it, whereas other people, doesn't know what to do with it because those receptors are so messed up. And a lot of us are have insulin resistance because of all the overload of the, like you were saying, the carbs turn to sugar in your mouth.
right.
That
Yes.
starch, turning it into sugar, and then any other sugar that you get, you're just adding on to it. So it's cumulative. And it's like anything else that you overdo. Like if you were drinking too much alcohol or you were eating too much food, when you're on an overload like that, then the body's like doesn't like that. The body will rebel and let us know, I don't like that. So you get indigestion or you get resistant in these different things, and that's a problem because when we're resistant to insulin, then we're not processing glucose,
Right. And it's
and
going
when they're
in.
not processing glucose, now we got all this glucose running rampant, eating up our organs, messing up our vessels, you know
Right.
So
I
I know I'm talking around all of this, but it's
yes, yes.
starting to kind of come together that what we're eating is clearly influencing how well we metabolize or not.
Yeah, I agree. I think a good place to start would be fast food. Because I
Mm,
think the fast food, the all of the fast food places, they're they're processing that food, and oftentimes the processing is done to benefit the food manufacturers and the food companies. And in order for the food to stay preserved, they remove anything that could spoil. So it could stay, like I've heard stories of somebody having a cheeseburger in their pocket, and they forgot about it. And the following year, they took it out of their pocket and it looked exactly the same.
Still intact.
And so the amount of preservatives that they're putting in the processed food, that would be an area for people to start with. So, I think the process, and then years ago, maybe, I don't know when McDonald's used to use beef tallow for their French fries. And now they're using seed oil. And most of these fast food places use seed oil because it's cheap, but it's so processed. They're using canola oil used to be a machine manufacturing oil. And they said, oh, let's just give it to the humans. We don't have to throw this away. We could just feed the people with that. So now when I go to the supermarket and I buy, I'm starting to back away from salad dressing, but I'm not quite at the point where I don't use salad dressing. So when I read the labels, if it says canola oil or
Mm-hmm.
vegetable oil, I don't get it. And now I'm starting to make my own salad dressing. So seed oils, if you're eating processed food, it's going to have seed oils, which they're calling forever oils, because they have to do so much processing. Because if we had the natural canola oil, it would taste terrible. So they have to use hexane and real strong chemicals and bleach it and deodorize it and do so many things to it that when we take it on, it's so inflammatory to our bodies that our
Absolutely.
bodies stores it in our fat cells. So our our human garbage can is the microbiome, the the fat cells. That's where all of our toxins are stored in our fat cells. So these seed oils are being stored, and they say it takes 1.5 to 2 years for it to completely come out of your body. So
Right. But if you
starting,
keep
yeah,
if you keep eating them, they're never going to come out.
they're never going to come out. So I
Yeah. If
think,
you stop altogether for a
right,
year and a half, maybe it'll
maybe
eventually,
it'll come out.
yeah.
Right. So
But we just keep putting more.
right. So if people could start before they get into the fancy diets, start with processed food. And it's hard because, especially for families, when their parents are coming home from work and they're tired and they could just press some buttons and the food will be delivered in 30 minutes, that becomes so easy to do,
Right.
but it's a trap because it's the processed food is just not good for us. It's
Right.
not good. So I
And
think
you know,
that
they cook quicker too because a lot of stuff is pre-cooked, like the rice, the instant rice, instant oatmeal, instant grits. All those things have been, they use chemicals to first get it in that form, but then they're cooking it ahead of time just to make it quicker. It's like we're
yes,
into this like fast-paced society where we want everything yesterday. And you
right,
know, like if you want decent food, it takes time to make that.
exactly. And it's really processed food is actually more expensive than making it yourself. But again, feeding families and these jobs are stressing the workers out. So when they get home from work, they're depleted and they don't have any energy to fix anything. So that becomes a trap. So we're really have our backs up against the wall with this whole, the food system and taking care of ourselves. It's really a challenge. It's really a challenge.
Right.
And when you mentioned the blood, the testing, that's another thing. So I think cutting back on the processed food. So if you're eating it 3 times a week, cut it down to 2 times a week. But when you get your doctor's exam, let them test you and see what is your blood pressure, what is your blood sugar,
Right.
what are your nutrient panels saying? Are
Right.
you deficient in vitamin D? There's a
Right.
lot of YouTube videos about people saying they were so deficient in vitamin C and they were falling apart and no they were going to the doctor and they felt terrible and they could hardly get out of bed and they were just exhausted and sick and nobody knew what it was and then somehow they tested their vitamin D and they found out that their vitamin D was like 12, 13. It's supposed to be minimum 40. Okay. But the medical system says if it's 30 to 100, that's okay. But that's just like saying having a 30 on a test is good. It's not good. It
Right.
needs to be 70 and up for it to be
Yeah.
good. So
Yeah.
starting with nutrient testing is a great idea to
Yeah.
find out where you're at. You know, when you call a car service, they say they find out where you're at
Right.
and where you want to go. But if you don't know where you are, you're just all over the place.
Right. You're trying everything and
Yeah.
hopefully something will work. But you're right. The testing that I'm referring to are the
Mm-hmm.
functional nutrition tests, the ones
Mm,
that are more specific to your particular makeup. Because a lot of the conventional testing that they have, they would say, "Oh, you're normal," but you
right.
know you don't feel right. You know that there's something
Exactly.
off. And so, being able to do a deep dive in that way, I think is really helpful because they do one for the microbiome, they do one for the cells, they do one for the DNA. But there are probably
Mm,
other ones too that can pick up like sensitivities that you have, that the next person might not have. All
right.
that's like useful information. It's like
Yeah, that is.
I had gotten to a point where I thought that I did not like bananas. I mean, I love bananas, but I said, you know what? Let me try this. Let me have a banana, but I'm going to chew it a long, long time. I'm going to digest it in my mouth and then see how I do. I'm just fine with bananas. But I thought
Mm,
that I was not because I guess I was gulping it down too quick.
right.
And so
Right.
it wasn't getting digested enough in order because
Mm,
what it would do is it would make me feel like I had like a knot in my stomach, like
right.
indigestion.
Yeah, that's a good point. They had this thing called Fletcherism that I don't know if it was in the 30s or the 40s or whatever, and he talked about chewing your food. Like if you ever see a dog eat, the dog will just just like take big chunks. And some humans eat like that. They
Mhm.
just take a couple of bites and then they're drinking soda with the 15
Mhm.
spoonfuls of sugar,
Right,
and they're not chewing the food because the enzymes in your mouth are supposed to pre-digest it. So
right,
if we're not chewing it properly, we're going to have indigestion problems because
right,
we're drinking this sugary liquid that's overwhelming to your body, and then
right.
we're not chewing our food properly, and we're swallowing all of this stuff down, and it goes into our 60 feet of microbiome. And
Hmm.
then over the course of the years of just doing this year in, these health problems that we're having at midlife could have started when we were 7 years old.
Right,
So it's like we have a lot, we've come a long way, but
right.
we have a long way to go. And I remember watching a YouTube where this guy, he was a Bollywood actor, and he went to this health retreat and he spent a lot of money. He spent a lot of money on airfare. He went to this retreat and he's expecting to get all of this good food. He wanted to have I spent my money. I want some good food. So when he
Hmm.
went to eat, they gave him a piece of bread and I think some olive oil or something like that. He said, "You got to be kidding me. I didn't come all the way over here and spend all of this money for you to give me some bread." And the person said, "Let's make a deal. If you follow what I'm saying to you, if you're still hungry afterwards, we'll give you a smorgasbord, a cornucopia of food. We'll just give you so much food, you just won't even know what to do with it." He said, "Okay." So they wanted him to take each bite of food and chew it between 30 and 50 times each
Mm.
bite.
Mm-hmm.
So he started doing that, chewing that piece of bread 30 to 50 times. And he said after a few minutes, he couldn't take another bite because so many digestive enzymes. And also, you know how they say it takes 20 minutes for your brain to tell you that you're full? He said
Right.
he couldn't even eat the rest of the bread. And so if we just started chewing our food and slowing down, like some people when they're eating, they take one bite and then before they get finished chewing this bite,
Mm-hmm.
they got the next bite ready to
Mm.
go in. And so just chewing our food. And another thing about chewing the food, they say that by us, all the years of us not chewing our food and swallowing water and alcohol and all of this stuff while we're eating, our microbiome, what they call it, leaky gut. So a baby's intestine is fine like silk, but adults' intestines has been so abused, it's like linen. And some of the partially digested food leaks through the walls, and the body thinks I'm invaded by some foreign object, and it sends out the histamines. And then we get these allergic reactions to the food that we're eating because we didn't chew our food.
Right. Right.
So,
Because it's partially digested, which means
yes,
that that protein is not a full protein. It's maybe like fragments of a protein,
yes,
like
yes,
peptides. And your immune system looks at that as, like you said, an invader. It's like, I don't know what that is. And so
right.
now you've got inflammation going on because, you got these things getting into your bloodstream. And so inflammation is not just, oh, your knees hurt or whatever. It can be systemic to the point that it will show up everywhere, to the point that, you just got inflammation everywhere. And that's what cancer likes. It likes when you're
Mm,
inflamed. It likes when you're, um, like you have all those weak spots going on. As you were talking about that, I was just made a note to myself about the leaky gut syndrome, and I would imagine that a lot of people do have that. Also, I made a note when you mentioned the drinking during your ingesting food because that totally messes up your stomach acid. Your stomach
right,
acid is perfectly willing to break down stuff. But when you dilute it with water, soda, juice, whatever, you're not allowing it to do what it knows how to do. And a lot of times people are taking these antacids, but usually we don't have enough acid because we're diluting it. We're making it
right.
less acid when we put other things in there, including water. I mean, we should really be letting the acid do what it knows how to do. And then maybe half hour, 45 minutes after you've completed eating, you can sip a little bit of those things. So all this, you're right, probably starts when we're 7 and don't come from like a situation where food was like scarce or that
Right.
you come from a big family and everybody's like trying to out eat everybody. Otherwise you're not gonna
Right.
be full enough, that
Right.
whole mentality of I gotta like just gouge
Uh,
myself with food. It
yes.
all
I
adds up.
I heard I was I saw this story about this guy. He said that he was, I think it was a recovery book, and he just talked about how he had food addiction issues and
Hmm.
alcohol issues. And he said, but when he was younger, there was always a lot of kids and it was never enough food. And so you would get that one meal, and that was it. So he said
Hmm.
that growing up like that had an impact on him. And he said some relative took him out to like that used to the restaurant was called Ponderosa Steakhouse, or one of those kind of steakhouse.
Oh yeah, I
And
remember those.
they had all you can eat shrimp. And he said he went crazy. He ate so many shrimps that he threw up. He just he just he could he so our trauma and what we grew up with and
Yes.
all of these things have so much impact on us.
Yeah.
And then when we talk about the programming and they're talking about these GLP drugs that people are using for weight loss, and
Hmm.
I get like a colonic on occasion, and the colon therapist, she said she has a client that her colon, she's been taking those GLPs for like 2 years, and she said her
Hmm.
colon just barely works now. That she
That's terrible.
it just slowed it because it's kind of like freezing your digestion. It's freezing it so that you
Right.
don't get the signal that you're even hungry at all.
Right.
And now she's really in bad shape, you
Wow.
know. So we're so vulnerable as human beings. We're so vulnerable to the system, to our programming, the four food groups, and all of this, the breakfast is the first most important meal of the day, and all of this programming and stuff. We're just so vulnerable as human beings that, we get overwhelmed. And, myself, if I get some bad news or something stressful,
Hmm.
I'm like, I want to eat a Jimmy Buff's hot dog, or I want to
Right.
have some pizza
Right.
to try to
Yeah.
soothe myself.
Right.
It's not going to change anything, but in
Right.
the moment,
Hmm.
I have anxiety and and fear, and so food can also sedate you and calm down your emotions. And that's how those people wind up on that My 600 Pound Life show, because it's not what they're eating, it's what's eating them. And a lot of those people that's on that show had some kind of trauma from their childhood that they did, it's either could have been abuse or a parent died or something like that. And so this
Right.
food thing is really, it's very complex.
Yes, it is.
It's
Yes.
very complex.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
it's we got to figure out a way to, handle we can't get overwhelmed, like kind of pick an area and say, I'm going to work on, do I overeat? So for the most part, personally, I I've been doing intermittent fasting for like 5 or 6 years, and at this point, I've been doing it for so long that I'm not really hungry for breakfast. I don't even really eat
Mhm.
breakfast. And
I know what you mean. Sometimes I don't even think about having lunch until like 3, 4,
right, exactly.
unless there's like food that's just there. Like if there's just food that just kind of came into the equation as far as
Hmm.
like meetings that have food and everything, I really don't think about it. I'm okay with having my coffee that I have in the morning and just sip
Right.
it all day. However, I don't know if that's a good thing to do because doesn't that cause your insulin to go up? Like you know what I mean? Like your blood glucose to go up?
It all
Like
depends.
every
Is it a
time you eat, it doesn't it like how
right?
does that work?
So if you're having carbohydrates, sugars, that's going to make your blood sugar go up. And then the protein, it goes up less so, and the
Hmm.
fats. So the fat causes a blood sugar spike the least amount, and then the
Hmm.
protein a little bit more, and the carbohydrates even more. And for
Hmm.
some reason, the carbohydrates, your body does not want sugar in your blood. It doesn't want it in there. So as soon as some sugar comes into your blood, the insulin comes in and pulls it out of your blood and stores it in your fat cells. But if we keep doing it, the fat cells get bloated and they start leaking. It can't
Hmm.
fill fat cell up anymore, and it just causes all of these other issues. But there was a guy named Barberi, I forgot his name. He weighed like 400 pounds, and
Hmm.
they fasted him for an entire year, and he went from 400 pounds approximately down to 180 pounds, and he was under medical supervision, and they gave him a vitamin supplement, and he drank water and tea for an entire year, and he didn't have any loose skin or anything. It just shrunk him completely down. And I think the course of the year gave his body a chance to absorb the extra skin. And he lived for a year drinking water. So it goes to show how we don't really, I think as we mature and as we're aging, we actually need to eat less food. We need more protein and
Right.
less carbohydrates and fats as we age,
Mhm.
whereas children need more because they're still growing.
Right.
So it's a lot to it, like figuring that out. Like, what does your body need? And are
Right.
you under eating or overeating?
Probably overeating. Because if it's good, I'm having more.
Yes,
More is
yes,
better.
yes. When I went to the retreat and the lady gave me, I had all of this vegetables that they were strict. No oil, no sugar, no salt, and no seasoning. They would just eat the vegetables with nothing on it. And I had a plate of vegetables that was cooked and vegetables that was raw, no chicken, no feathers, no nothing. And what I learned from that is if the food is plain and bland, you will not overeat. You won't.
Hmm.
Those spices,
Yeah.
the sugar, salt, and the fat, that's what's making us keep going. Like the macaroni and cheese
Insatiable.
is
Yeah.
salty, fatty, or the sugary. But when you eliminate that and it's plain, you'll just eat enough to knock your hunger down and then you're good. You will not overeat. It's almost impossible
Um,
to
that's
overeat something that tastes like
interesting.
raw collard greens. You're not going to overeat raw collard greens. Now,
Right.
they had this
No.
guy, there was a guy his dog was eating collard greens. And his friends was like, how the heck? I can't get my dog to eat broccoli or nothing like that. He won't eat anything but meat. He said, don't feed him for a week and he'll eat the collard greens.
He'll get
So
on board.
he'll get on board, right? So overly seasoning our food is making us addicted. We're addicted to the seasoning and the
Mm,
taste. It ain't really the food. It's the
right.
seasoning and the combinations because if it's plain, you don't even want it.
And that's like when you think about a lot of these things, these snacks that we eat that are loaded with all those flavorings. That
Yes.
was one of the things I found fascinating when I worked in the chemical industry, is that the flavors were chemicals this long. They
Mm,
were nothing, they had nothing. You could take one drop, put it in here, the whole floor is going to smell like warm bread, like from a bakery.
wow.
It's a
Wow.
chemical. It's nothing more than just like a very long chemical with a bunch of numbers in it. And
Wow.
so, it's like we are very like you say, addicted to taste. And a
Yes.
lot of the things that we think we're eating butter, we think we're eating um things that are like, pleasant, like those fruity flavors and things. A lot of them are nothing, have no fruit in them at all. Like
Right.
Kool-Aid, cherry
Yes.
and all the different orange and not a doggone piece of fruit in that at all. Nothing but chemicals. And so the fact that we're addicted to that is like really it's kind of crazy.
Yes, it is. And so we're under the grips of a system that is prioritizing profit over the people's health. So
Hmm.
we're going to have to figure out a way to rein that back in.
and start to get a hold of ourselves and pull
Mm-hmm.
ourselves out of this system because people are developing all of these ailments now, the lupus and sarcoidosis and cancer and all of these diseases, they're man-made diseases. And
Right.
so it's going to be an uphill battle because we're kind of at the mercy of the system that we're in. But there are things that we can do as individuals and families too.
Yeah, absolutely. I like your idea about making homemade salad dressings because I mean, when you think about something I really want to get onto the chia seeds because they are superfood. You can make it into a dessert. You can make it into a salad dressing because it's gets thick, and you can put like
Mm,
olive oil and just things that are good in it.
right, right.
Um, yeah, so that and quinoa, there were several different superfoods like that, that if we were planning ahead, like a lot of this meal prepping, I think is a really great idea because when you're not hungry and you're making these things, you're in control. But
Yes,
once that hunger thing gets in your mind, it's like, I want that. And you're going to
exactly.
have that,
Right,
whatever it is.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's so nice us having these conversations, and I'm looking forward to the deep dive that we're going to do with you next week. It's going to be
Okay.
awesome.
Sounds wonderful. Next week, we're going to talk about testing our testing ourselves as individuals to see exactly what's going on with our own body so that we can be proactive to do the things that will help us to um, be our healthiest self.
Sounds like a good
Give
plan.
our organs a break, give our organs what they need so that they can do what they know how to do.
Sounds like a great plan. See you
Okay.
then, Lori. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hmm. So, wow. Okay.